Baik, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi teman-teman semua. Saya yakin teman-teman yang berada di sini adalah teman-teman yang sudah tidak sabar dari kemarin untuk menunggu talk show yang sangat luar biasa hari ini. Pertama-tama saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Bill. Bill, thank you for joining this talk show. We are really happy to hear some incredible story from you. We know who are you with the some story about the change making, and thank you for you to joining this forum, and also Pak Ulil. Thank you so much for joining this forum. I know you are the important people right now in Nahdlatul Ulama, and so many activities. And I think you also very important, and thank you for joining this forum. I would like to inform you the participant of this talk show, and the first participant are from others of Nahdlatul Ulama. What is the Nahdlatul Ulama? I think you can ask to Pak Ulil. Pak Ulil will describe completely about what is Nahdlatul Ulama. And the other participants are from ITB Tuban. As you know, in the last meeting, I tell you about my initiative in Java to build the little campus, use the ideological of the change maker. Joining in this forum, lecture, and some of the students. And the other participants are from local facilitator, Bill. They are the facilitator and right now working with the 28 district in Indonesia and working with the 112 village to reaching marginalized group to make sure that the women and the marginalized group could participate in the village of development. They're doing initiative for building the social inclusion. Berbahagia sekali kita bisa berjumpa dan nanti akan berdiskusi dengan Bill dengan sejumlah pengalaman yang luar biasa tentang inisiatif melakukan berbagai perubahan, dan lebih berbahagia lagi karena Bill juga terhubung dengan sejumlah inisiatif di dunia tentang perubahan-perubahan yang sangat besar dan berdampak bagi perubahan kehidupan. Bill adalah salah satu lulusan dari Harvard, so kita semua sangat berbahagia hari ini kita membawa dua alumni Harvard di forum ini, Pak Ulil Abshar Abdalla. Hari ini adalah Ketua Lakpesdam PBNU dan sangat sibuk sekali. Terima kasih Pak Ulil. Bill dikenal kalau search di Google Bill, so many Bill gitu ya, so many story of the Bill. Dikenal sebagai inisiator dari social entrepreneur. Could you please to tell us about the incredible story when you were a child? What the change did you made when you were a child?
Having a dream and building a team and changing your school or neighborhood is so much fun, and everyone can do it if you just get over people telling you you can't. So in fourth grade, I started a newspaper, and it was hand typed. Then I saved up and bought a mimeograph machine, and it grew, and it went from one class to the school and then multiple schools, and it was just great fun. So once you've done that once, you have your power. You know you can do it, and you're going to do it again and again. So in high school, I started the Asia Society. At Harvard as an undergraduate, where the Ashoka idea came. At Yale Law School, I created Yale Legislative Services, etc. And so for everyone here, just give yourself permission, please. It's so much fun.
Okay, thank you. Now we know what your commitment with the Ashoka. It started when you was child, but why it should be made by young? Bill, what the strategic think the changes should be made by young?
It's biology. we're all ready by the time we're 11 or 12 to do this. You just have to give yourself permission. And the sooner you do it, the deeper it is, the stronger you'll be the second and third time. Let me pause for the translator. So let me give you an example. Sarah Toomey is growing up in a Tunisian village. And when she was 11, she saw that the 12 and 13-year-old girls were taken out of school because it was unsafe for them to walk to school. And she said, "This is crazy." So I'll pause. So she said, "Why not a bus?" And she organized her friends, and 2 years later, there was a bus. And quite a few years later, she became an Ashoka Fellow, dealing with climate change in North Africa. And I'll pause again. So she increased farmers' incomes by 60% by making them change makers and showing them how to adapt to climate change. For example, through the introduction of trees that use less water. So not only is that work a model, but she is now one of the top advisors to President Macron of France. And it all started when she was 11. So please, NU and Ashoka have got to work together to make sure that every young person has that experience. Now, historically, this was a huge advantage. You talk to any of the great entrepreneurs today, they almost all started something in their teens. But now, everyone needs it, everyone. So the danger is that we're going to leave 40% behind. And that's cruel and it's unethical because you can't have a life if you're not a giver. And in a world defined by change, you can't be a giver unless you know how to cause change. If you're ready to play soccer and the game is chess, you're out. And all the great prophets said, a good life is a life of love and respect in action. And you can't do that if you can't play the game. And change is the only game that's there. That's the new reality. And this is the new literacy. And NU needs this for all its members, but for everyone. This is what NU has always stood for. Leave no one behind. Enable everyone to have a good life, being a giver. This is the ultimate right, is the right to give.
Thank you, Bill. Do you still would like to continue your speaking, or I can move to Pak Ulil?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. Incredible story. The young is blessed. We have to believe that we can do anything what we would like to do. And I remember that our independent passed by the young. This is the young is the blessed for Indonesia. I think Nahdlatul Ulama have the some of the story about why Nahdlatul Ulama just exists right now, and Nahdlatul Ulama have the some initiative. Pak Ulil mohon menjawab itu, dan juga saya langsung tambahkan kenapa anak muda di NU harus bergerak untuk menciptakan perubahan. Pak Ulil, why the young in Nahdlatul Ulama, so many young in Nahdlatul Ulama should participate with the change.
Thank you, terima kasih. Good morning, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for having me in this conversation. I will be speaking in two languages. I try to speak in English first, and then I will try my best to sum it up in Indonesian. I want to start my my talk here with a story. A few months ago, I met with a Dutch journalist who was originally from Turkey. He's Turkish by origin, but he lived in Netherlands, in Dutch. Yeah. He's still young. He just graduated from Oxford, majoring in Islamic studies. And he came to Jakarta a few months ago, and he asked me, he told his family story when his family went to Mecca for pilgrimage. And his family was impressed by Indonesian people's way of behaving. Among millions of people who went to Mecca for pilgrimage, Indonesian pilgrims stand out as according to this Turkish family, stand out as a very impressive people in terms of characters, humility, and behavior and good attitude. So this young man, Turkish man from who live in Dutch in Netherlands, he asked me, why are Indonesian people are so good in character and attitude, especially the Muslim, yeah. To the extent that they impress my family out of millions of people who went to Mecca for pilgrimage. Why Indonesians stand out as special? So I was quite surprised and taken aback by this question, because I never expected to encounter such a question, and I tried to make up my mind how to figure it out. Yeah. So I answer him by saying that this might have to do with the characters of Islam in Indonesia. Many Western journalists describe Indonesian Islam as smiling Islam. A Muslim with smile, with a big smile in their faces, with hospitality. I hope that Pak Bill, did you come to Indonesia once, Pak Bill?
Oh, many times.
Oh, many times. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, because this is my first encounter with you, and I'm so honored talking to you on this panel. So, this good characters of Indonesian Muslim might have to do with the Indonesian Islam. Why is it so? Because if you look at the Indonesian Muslim leaders or cleric or ulama, they have a very unique characters here. If you compare to Indonesian leaders, Muslim leaders, ulama, with the fellow from Arab people, Arab land, yeah, there are many differences. One of it is that Indonesian leaders, Muslim leaders, ulama, most of them, especially the traditional ulama, most of them, they live among people in the villages. They do not live in big cities. This is different from the ulama in Saudi Arabia, in Egypt, in many Arab countries. Most of the prestigious traditional Muslim ulama, they live among people. They live in countryside, not in a big city. And they try to translate moral teaching of Islam as written in books. They try to translate it into a living example in daily life. making it possible for the people in the countryside, in the villages, to see Islam by example, not just by theories, by verbal teaching, and this explain, among other things, why Indonesian ulama are not standing out in terms of intellectual production. They do not produce works, intellectual works, as the Indian or Arab ulama who produce a lot, voluminous work in Arabic, in Urdu, in many other languages. In terms of intellectual production, Indonesian ulama are very, very rare, very limited, but they have a very impactful, role in changing the daily life, the characters of the people. And I would say that this is the example of ulama being, the game changer, the game changer. So if Ashoka has, the slogan, everybody or everyone a changer or change maker, this is what we see in our daily life in countryside. Thousands of the Muslim cleric ulama, they live among people, making a difference in real life, not only in religious sense, but also in economic life, in social life, in cultural life, even in political life sometimes, because they live next to the people. They are not living in ivory towers, isolated from people, armchair scholars or intellectual. No, they live among people.
Okay.
So I want to say, this is a last word, a punchline of my speech. Indonesian ulama, they practice what Ashoka has taught to the young people across the world. They did it in their daily life. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, you would like to ask to Pak Ulil something or no?
I just want to underline what Ulil was saying. When we started Ashoka, it started in India and Indonesia. And so this is very early 80s. And one of the early people I was sent to see was Gastur. And at that point, he was not in Jakarta. He was well outside it, leading a pesantren. This is exactly your point. And he was one of our early nominators. And you probably know Wimar Witular. When there was a little trouble in his presidency, Wimar stepped up to be presidential spokesman. Well, Wimar was Ashoka's first executive director in Indonesia. So yes, I totally understand the NU is about everyone, and it's about service, and it's not leaving people behind, and it's respecting everyone. And what we worked on starting in the 80s was bringing social entrepreneurship to Indonesia, which is a very key part of this freedom. They're role models and they help local change makers. And now the job is to get it to everyone. And that's why we need to work together. So I just couldn't agree more with what you're saying. That's the spirit. It's not, give yourself permission. Everyone can have a dream. Everyone can figure out. I mean, it's not hard to see problems or opportunities. Just give yourself permission. And that is the way that, that's why we've been together for so long. And now we have to work together on this new stage. I'm sorry, I'm so excited. I talked too long for the poor translator.
Thank you, Mr. Drayton. Thank you very much.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Arif. Bill, okay, there is some, I think NU and Ashoka have the some ideology and have the some of the initiative to the change. But as I tell you, some of the people in here are the local facilitators to doing some changes in the village. And we would like to hear from you, Bill. What must we do if you would like to drive the change? I think Ashoka have the some of the story about this.
Well, thank you. We have many young people here with us as well. And I think the only thing that's hard about taking your first change-making step is giving yourself permission. Let me pause.
Can I say something about Ufi? Sorry, it's okay.
Yes, please. Bill, did you would like to, do you?
No, I wanted to expand on that a bit if I could, but you'll go ahead.
No, it's okay. Mr. Drayton, please go on.
Okay, so let me take my experience in high school as an example. I went to this high school. I was really interested in Asia. The high school was not. Problem. So the first step is identifying a problem. And that is so easy. There are problems and opportunities everywhere. So what to do about this problem? Oh, well, why don't we organize sessions for ourselves? And so I got some friends together and we built a team and started doing that. We brought in a film and discussed it, or we brought in a speaker and had conversations every week with a different part of the team responsible every week. And soon, 1 out of 3 students in the high school were paid up members of our Asia Society. And then the school started giving us courses in Asian history. Now, anyone here can do that. You can see a problem that you care about. You can imagine what this next step is, and you can build a team. And if you do, you'll change your world. And then you'll have your power for life. And so what we need to do together is to make sure that this is not a really impossibly difficult thing to do. This should be the norm. Every kid should be a change maker. It should be natural. And that's what really good schools are already doing. You know, imagine if we worked together and the NU Pazantrans, with their amazing leadership position all across the country in the villages, if this was the norm in those schools, what a gift to the students, what a gift to the society, what a gift to Indonesia's 100 years in 1945. And any student can start it.
Hello. Okay, Bill, would you like to just still to speak or enough?
Well, I think I tried to answer that question. I'd love to encourage everyone to give themselves permission, everyone of all ages. And it's not just young people. We all have parents and grandparents, and they need the gift of being able to give too. And everyone in a religious community, isn't that what the prophets were about? Everyone expressing love and respect in action, everyone having the power to do that. It's a new game. People have to know how to play chess. Soccer isn't going to do it. And that's our challenge. And we can all contribute to that for everyone around us. And this is totally, I love what Ulil was saying. This is, of course, the spirit of NU and of Ashoka.
Okay, Thank you, Bill. Your story something simple but can be done by any people. Even something we talking about the big thing, national problem. Even we have so many problem around us. So your story, simple story, and giving the big impact is valuable for us. I would like to continue to Pak Ulil, Mas Ulil. Berbicara tadi tentang ulama-ulama di Indonesia. Kita tahu bahwa itu dimulai dari para anak-anak muda. Nahdlatul Ulama menyiapkan para ulama-ulama yang akan hidup bersama masyarakat, berdampingan dengan masyarakat, itu sejak muda. Kenapa itu penting, Pak Ulil?
I try to make a comparison between modern and traditional education as I see it in Indonesia. There is something standing out from this comparison. The graduate, the alumni, student who went to traditional madrasah, traditional school like pesantren, this is what we call in Indonesia, pesantren, meaning a place where people study, pesantren. The alumni of traditional school tend to be more independent and creative and innovative and adaptive to a changing circumstances compared to their fellow student, graduates from modern education. Of course, I do not deny, the merit, the advantages of modern education, but this is the practice, the situation, the phenomenon that I see in Indonesia. The graduate, the alumni of modern education seem to be less innovative because, and it seemed to me that this modern education kill the making different spirit in students. Because once they graduate, they are forced to fit into a well-established machinery of employment, of modern, job. So the spirit of innovation, the spirit of creativity are seemingly lacking. I myself, I graduate from modern education institution, but I graduated also from the pesantren, from the madrasah, from the traditional school. So I went through these two different experiences, and I can compare. So, and it is not coincidence when you studied Ashoka in India and in Indonesia, early in 80s, and then you met with Gus Dur, the prominent. This is someone we respect so much because he is our inspiration for making difference and change and everything. It is not a coincidence when you visited Indonesia and you met with Gus Dur, because you met with the right person who was the epitome of this spirit, of this traditional education style. Because Gus Dur went to traditional school before he went to Egypt and Iraq for college education there. But before that, long before that, in 50s, he went to traditional madrasah, traditional school. So, and this teach me some important lesson. Some important lesson. I think there are many things to learn from traditional institutions. This is not to deny the merit of progress, the merit of modernity, of change and everything. But there are a lot of good things that we can learn from our existing practice, traditional, institution. And in Nahdlatul Ulama, in NU, we have a very popular, let's say, slogan or, jargon saying that we maintain tradition without ignoring the imperative of change. So continuity and change. That's the word in America, continuity and change. In Arabic, we say it as such, المحافظة على القديم الصالح والأخذ بالجديد الأصلح, maintaining the existing, practice that we inherit from our predecessors while pursuing, the new thing that is more, profitable and useful for us. Thank you.
Okay, Pak Ulil, you not answer my question about why NU preparation the ulama start from the young. Why that is very important?
I think there's a saying in our madrasa, in our traditional school, that if you engrave on an empty stone, it will produce a good engraving. But if you engrave on a stone that is already engraved, of course you can make some, engraving on that stone, but it's different. It's not as good as you engrave on an empty stone, an empty slate. That's why teaching the youth, the young people, teaching, inculcating values and characters to people early on in their life, it will produce a good soul, a spirit. That's I live before this, modern technology of DVD and CD. I live in cassette era, Mr. Drayton. So if you make a recording on a cassette with already a song in it, it doesn't make a good recording. But if you make a recording in an empty cassette, it will make a good recording.
Thank you so much, Pak Ulil. That's why the mission of the pesantren is to live the community, and some of the santri children provide the access to education when they graduate from the pesantren. They give the access, and that's why the mission of the pesantren to living with the people, to give the access of the education still continue, because there are the pendidikan sejak dari muda, sehingga itu membuat misi pesantren terus berlanjut. Para santri yang umumnya alumni dari pesantren punya inisiatif untuk mendirikan juga pesantren di tempat-tempat yang baru yang umumnya sulit, dan itu melanjutkan penyediaan akses pendidikan, karena some of the student graduate from pesantren is actually giving the a free education, memberikan pendidikan yang murah, seperti dulu dia di pesantren mendapatkan pendidikan yang murah. Bill, I would like to guess to you. I think this is the last question. Because we would like to go to a discussion with the participant. Would you like to respond to Pak Ulil, what Pak Ulil explained? And hello?
Yes, I'd love to. The deep values which are rooted in the revolution of the prophets, there's nothing passive about that. It's a commitment that everyone in the Ummah, everyone, has the right to have a full life. And that means expressing love and respect in action. That is the strength that Ulil was describing. So we're all faced with a rate of change that is very, very fast and accelerating. And the degree and extent of interconnection is also accelerating really fast. Whoever you are, whatever type of institution, that's the underlying reality we face. So we're going from cassettes to artificial intelligence. And all those jobs that used to be there are going away, including the intellectual jobs that are repetitive. So the challenge we need to work on together is, how do we take the underlying values, the strength of independence that Bill was talking about, and make sure that they make the leap so that the current students and future students are going to be able to be really contributors in this radically different world. When we came to Indonesia, no one had ever heard of a social entrepreneur. And this is just, Gus Dora understood it. He was running this pesantren in rural Indonesia, just as you were saying, that he understood it. And he was very helpful to us in helping Indonesia through that transition, and then Indonesia leading the world. I think we have a similar challenge now. This is the next giant step. It's not just the great social entrepreneurs, it's everyone. Everyone has to have that power. And we need to work together to figure out how and experiment. But the one thing we cannot do is leave a large part of Indonesia unable to give. That means they don't have a life, and that is unethical. So everyone here, we've just got to work together, and thank you for being here. We're part of something that's really important, and every single person here, young or old, can contribute big time.
Okay, thank you, Bill. This is the spirit we get so many spirit this morning, and this spirit should be born, and UN Ashoka for creating the good future. And we start to discuss with the participant. Will, Bapak Ibu semua, kita masuk ke dalam sesi pertanyaan. Saya persilahkan sejumlah orang untuk bertanya. Bisa melalui chat di sini. Saya akan cek chat. Apakah ada pertanyaan dari Bapak Ibu semua? Oke.
Saya bacakan pertanyaannya dari Ahans Mahabibi dalam bahasa Inggris. Hello Bill, nice to know you. Agree with you about we need to do together. We got it. But you may know we have a unique habit that we are already have a lot of time to doing some things together about how to change or to transform to the better condition from ngopi and ngaji. Ngopi means like drinking coffee together, and then also ngaji is like reciting the Quran. Many inspirations we have from it about local wisdom, ecological, economy, holistical, healthy, and etc. We are happy inside this condition. We are have a good visions and missions, but to make it real, it's very difficult. The question is, what and how do you think about our condition and how to make it more better for us practically? Thank you.
One of the qualities of the age we're entering is that the thing that makes you happy and healthy more than anything else is giving the gift to others of the power to give. So imagine the society we're building. This is such a good society. The best thing every person can do for their own life is to help others have the best life they can have. And that's why we say the ultimate right is the right to give. And the same thing is true for organizations. The organizations that are going to do really well are those who help all the people that they touch have the power to give. Those are going to be the most powerful organizations. And that's true for countries also. So the fact that the Indonesians in Mecca stood out because they're more giving and less angry and less divided, that's a great strength to build on. And so we want to make sure, working together, that everyone in Indonesia has the power to give. And if they do, they're going to help everyone else in Indonesia have that power. This is unstoppable. But if we let a large part of Indonesia fall behind and not know how to play the new game, they are going to be crushed. That's what's happening in the US and in many other countries. So the parts of the US with low change making have lost 4 years of life expectancy in one generation pre-COVID. And those people are very angry, desperate. You can see this all over the world in the last 8 or 9 years. The demagogues have come up because so many people are unable to play in the new game, and they are desperate and they are angry. So that's the danger. And that's why we have to work together as an ethical matter, but also as a practical matter. We cannot leave people behind. We have to make sure that everyone has the power to give. And if we do that, there's no way that the problems outrun the solutions. Everyone is a change maker, and we know how to work together. The solutions win. And this is a society that's going to be equal because everyone is trying to help everyone else be powerful. And everyone here is part of society that's able to play in the new game. But there are people who aren't, and we have the power to give. But just imagine what it would be like if you didn't, and you didn't understand what was going on. That's really cruel. And so we're so close. We can get there. We have to work together to make it happen.
Okay, thank you, Bill, for the answers. Pak Ahan dari Wonogiri. Pak Ahan, one of the figure in local district in the district, they building the school bill to give some access the education in the little village in the Wonogiri in Java. Thank you, Pak Ahan, for the question. Pak Ulil, would you like to also to respond the answer from Pak Hans?
No, thanks. I'm okay. Yeah.
Okay, we would like to go to another question.
Baik, mungkin saya bacakan satu dulu untuk Gus Ulil dari salah satu peserta kita, Bintang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Gus Ulil, terima kasih banyak atas pemaparannya. Sangat senang mendengar ide-ide dan pengalaman Gus Ulil. Saya ingin bertanya, Gus, apakah refleksi Gus Ulil untuk para pengajar, pengurus pesantren, pembina di masa sekarang, baik yang bekerja di NU maupun tidak, seperti apakah para pengurus, pengajar, para kiai ini juga bisa mengakselerasi atau menciptakan ekosistem di mana anak muda bisa memiliki keberanian untuk melakukan perubahan dan memiliki visi untuk bisa menjadi giver, jadi pemberi gitu. Bagaimana para kiai dan juga pengurus pesantren ini dapat membina santri-santrinya memiliki entrepreneurial spirit, apa saja kualitas itu. Terima kasih.
So what I'm saying, Pak Drayton, is that the kind of cultural ecosystem that has been cultivated in our traditional school and institution is the ecosystem of entrepreneurship. The spirit that has been planted in our student mind early on in their life, because students in our madrasah, in our pesantren, started their education early on in when they are still in before 10 even, yeah. So the kind of cultural ecosystem and environment that has been cultivated in our traditional school is the ecosystem of entrepreneurship in the sense that the mindset, the mindset of the student graduating from traditional madrasa, as I see it, because I went there for many years. Probably there are certain some changes of late, yeah, but still the spirit is still there. The spirit is that the people, the student graduating from this traditional school, is that once they graduated, the first thing they want to do is not to work for somebody else, but to create their own entity, either to create another school, no matter how small it is, in villages, yeah, for the people, sometimes for free, to create economic entity, to economic, anything, cultural entity. So they create their own space to work in there, not to work for somebody else. So that's why in my previous comparison, I try to point out a very, a very, remarkable difference in terms of spirit between modern education graduating student and the traditional one. The traditional student, they think whenever or once they graduate, they want to create their own space. So we have an education, the thinkers, one of our great thinker of education is Kiai Hajar Dewantara. He lived in 30s, during the Dutch colonial era. When he theorized, conceptualized the kind of education that fit Indonesian culture, Ki Hajar Dewantara looked to pesantren as a model. Why? Because the kind of ecosystem that normally created in pesantren is this kind of ecosystem of autonomy, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Of course, there are many weaknesses. I admit that there are many weaknesses in traditional school, of course, and we should improve it. But still, I see, a lining silver in this traditional practice, the spirit of entrepreneurship, the spirit of making change and difference. Yeah.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Ulil, Mbak Ara. Kita masih ada waktu beberapa menit untuk satu pertanyaan lagi.
Baik, pertanyaan terakhir ini ditujukan kepada kedua pembicara untuk Bill dan juga Pak Ulil. Ini dari Pak Deden Yusuf, P3PD Kabupaten Karawang. So good morning, Mr. Bill and also Mr. Ulil. My question is, how can we make a change for people in the village? Because some of them are sensitive towards change. Yes, change is not normal and easy for people to just accept, especially a change in the social system and also new social knowledge.
This question for both of you. Yes, please, Bill, to answer the first.
Well, may I just add something to what Ulil was saying before answering. As I said earlier, the hardest thing in being a young change maker or any change maker is to give yourself permission. And that's what Ulil was describing. An environment that allows people to give themselves permission. And I would add there's a second thing, and that is working together. So are rural people really that conservative? Information flows freely now. People can move. And I think if you give a rural young person or older person the opportunity, so they have the ability, of course they'll go for it. Everyone wants to be a giver, and everyone wants to be able to function effectively in whatever world they live in. And change is affecting the rural areas just as much as the urban areas.
On the surface, I know that, and I can feel the hardship encountered by our friend who work in the fields among people in the villages, the hardship concerning making a change and difference on village level. Perhaps some people tend to be resistant to some changes and tend to be conservative in the sense of, maintaining what is in existence now. I can understand that, I can feel that, and I went through that myself in my personal experience. Yeah. But I encourage my friend here to learn from how our traditional kiai, ulama, make a change. So I support change, but I would add that change are made in different ways. And this is something that we can learn from our traditional leaders. They, on the surface, it looks like that our traditional leaders are a bit, hesitant about change, sometimes conservative. But if you dig deeper, you will understand that our traditional leaders have their own way of making change. And we should learn from that. We can learn from our traditional leaders. It is not to, to glorify tradition and traditionalism. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not I'm not for a tradition, whatever it means. No, but we can learn from our traditional leaders about how to make a change. And I can see a wisdom in that. To make a change without, in English parlance, without arousing a ruffle, without making any trouble, and so. And Ashoka, and this is surprised me, Drayton. Why do you choose Ashoka as a term for this initiative? Why not reform or a Western terminologies? There are many, a bunch of words that you can choose from. Why you choose Ashoka? Why not other term? And I think it says many things for me. Why Ashoka? Because I can see what is working behind your mind. I think you want to learn something from the Eastern wisdom. That in Eastern wisdom, you can make a change without making people upset or angry or even trouble. So smooth change in a wise way. Ini
You have to
poin penting.
clarify, Bill, why you choose the Ashoka.
I'm
guys,
just guessing,
here.
Pak Drayton. I might be wrong, but I'm just guessing. And I think it's a good guess. It's a good guess.
Okay,
That's
thank you,
what I
Pak
mean.
Ulil. Thank you. Now, Bill, you have to clarify why the Ashoka. Maybe some of us would like to hear about that.
Well, if you're going to create a global movement, you can't use any language. And so you either use a name, and Ashoka was a person who lived in 3rd century BCE, India. And Ulil is right. Ashoka was for peace, and he was an incredibly creative person in every field. He caused really big change of the sort that we want. So he created the first social welfare officers. He created, when there was failure of the rains, food for work. It's just one amazing change after another. He also had a very global perspective. Could I sneak back to rural people for a moment? We have so many fellows who work with rural people, and you give rural people half a chance and they change. Let me tell you a story. So Ibrahim Soban is the Bangladeshi fellow, and he came from the poorest village family, but he got elementary education, and he got a job in Dhaka. Every day he got on the bus and went out to a rural district to change the educational system. At that point, only 15% got through the 5th grade. He brought in a whole series of changes, all of which put kids in charge. Starting in 1st grades, they made things and sold them. Soap, candles, tree nursery, chicken raising, and ultimately diesel pump set repair. And half the profits went to a secondary school fund, and half at the end of the year would go to the family. So poor families would be able to buy a radio. It was a savings program. So someone who had land and needed their pump repaired would go to the house of a very poor person to get the kid to come to fix his pump and pay for it. And another change, it was the students who did the exercises, graded the exercises, and those who got the right answers helped those who didn't. And there were more changes. So here's the UN measures of the results. At the end of 4 years, he had persuaded 4,000 schools, persuaded 4,000 schools in rural Bangladesh to do all this. United Nations measurement, enrollment rates went up 44%,
Nah,
and the
kalau
dropout rate was cut in half. And his model went to India and to Brazil through the Ashoka network. Now, these are rural people, poor rural people. Their kids were able to do this. I don't think there's anything wrong with rural people. Rural people can be change makers. And we have 1,400 fellows who focus on kids, and 87% of them put kids in charge in 1 million schools across the world, and it works. There is nothing wrong with rural people.
Okay, thank you, Bill. It's valuable for us that we would like to make something in village. Most of the participants are from the local facilitator. And guys, we already in the end of the talk show. Unfortunately, Pak Ulil, this is time for you to closing statement. I don't mind. I don't imagine if there is no NU or Muhammadiyah in this country, in this republic, so hard to us to find the education to either like me. I go to school from Nahdlatul Ulama and I increase some of the capacity. Yes, please, Pak Ulil, for your closing statement.
I want to thank a friend here from Ashoka and Mbak Ufi for making this conversation possible, in which I can sit virtually next to Pak William Drayton. I know him. I never met you in person, but I know you from your work and from many sources that tell about you. So I'm so honored to be in the same frame with you. This is like a big honor for me. You exemplify what I admire about you is that I know that values that you taught to people around the world are values that we know them already firsthand from our leaders in rural areas, from Kiai and so forth. What is special about you, Pak Drayton, is that you scale up this local initiative on global level and network people. And this is something I admire. This is something that is lacking in many of us. There are many initiatives in rural areas, but networking those people who work on rural areas on those initiatives and make them work together, learn from each other. This is something that is special. So you're right that working together is no less important than cultivating spirit of change. Because if you want change, but you are selfish, you are an island unto yourself without working together with other people. That change cannot happen. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ulil. Please, Bill, you can closing statement for this talk show.
Well, Ulil and Ufi, neither of you are exactly anonymous. You lifelong contributions to the good, and really importantly, and I'm so grateful to Nani, Amelia, Ara, and our other colleagues, Ashoka colleagues here and in Indonesia. Together, we can really not only move Indonesia, but Indonesia is again in global leadership here. And if we commit to what our values have always said, we are not going to leave people behind. We are not going to allow people to be crushed. We're going to make sure that everybody is a giver, has the right, has the power, that right to give. There's a historical moment. We've been building up to this for a long time, and we're entering the turning point years. And if we link arms together, all of us, everyone in this conversation, everyone can make a really big contribution. A young person can change their school or their mosque or their neighborhood just as much as you or I. And working together, as Ulil says, that's where the real power is. And so thank you very much. This is part of the process of building that community, and I'm most grateful.
Baik, thank you Bill for your commitment for the world. Terima kasih Pak Ulil atas sharingnya, dan terima kasih kepada teman-teman yang hadir pada kesempatan hari ini, dari kawan-kawan yang sedang bekerja di desa, dari teman-teman yang sedang bekerja di ITB Tuban, ada beberapa lecturers dan student di sana. Kita akan tetap menjaga spirit kita. We will like to protect our spirit to give the access of education for the campus to the poor in Java. Dan terima kasih juga kepada kader NU yang hari ini bergabung dengan kita, dan teman-teman juga yang dari luar NU mungkin juga ada di sini. Beberapa orang aktivis juga ikut, Bill. Some of the activists joining this forum, Bill. I hope we can meet not online but offline one day, Bill, with the NU. Terima kasih Mbak Nani, Mbak Amel dari Ashoka yang sudah memfasilitasi forum kita. Kita sangat berbahagia dan seluruhnya adalah hal-hal yang bernilai untuk kami. Saya undur diri. Terima kasih. Bye-bye.